You guys, Gamer here, and welcome back to another video. So this video is one that's been quite highly requested by you lot. Basically, I'm going to be talking about potential and likely villains for the Miles Morales game. Now obviously this video is a bit late, a lot of people have done this video, but I'm going to be going quite in depth as to why and how these characters could be implemented. So far we know that the main threat and the main focal point of this game is going to be the Energy Corporation and the high-tech criminals facing off against each other in the streets of New York. Now this will definitely hold a lot of focus of the game. I mean, many boss villains can revolve around this. They could be like the leaders behind the operations, they could be the heavy muscle of the operations, so there's a lot of potential for boss fights just deriving from this gang war. The first villain I'd like to see in this game is Omega Red. Omega Red is primarily an X-Men villain. However, he has fought Miles a lot of times in the comics, and I just feel like he would really fit into this game. Now, first of all, look at this guy. He is a very intimidating villain. He stands around like 6'11", and that would contrast so well with Miles' teenage physique. His suit would also look so good in this game, and if they go for like the red and black look, he could complement Miles' suit so well. In terms of powers, he's a perfect challenge for Miles. He has like superhuman strength, superhuman speed, agility, durability, stamina, and superhuman reflexes. Very similar to Spider-Man in some regards. Also, he does have a much more impactful healing factor than both Miles and Peter, to the point where he managed to heal a punctured lung in the matter of like 3 minutes once. So his healing factor is basically in like the Wolverine and Deadpool league. Maybe not Deadpool, but you know. Now this will make him an insanely powerful opponent for Miles. His main powers are his carbonadium tentacles that are retractable from each arm, and his ability to secrete pheromones that cause sickness or even death in humans. Now these pheromones, like their power is very dependent on the health of the individual, like the vulnerability, and how far he is away from that individual. So they're not always going to be deadly. So he wouldn't be incredibly OP to the point where his pheromones could literally be like devil's breath, where he can just release it on the whole of New York. However, they would be very powerful up against an individual like Miles. Obviously, Omega is a seriously challenging opponent who even Peter would struggle to overcome. However, he could act as the huge leap Miles takes as a hero to establishing himself as Spider-Man. Omega Red often is aided by his armor, which sometimes implements a lot of tech to help control his powers, to make him stronger and a bigger threat. So this could tie in very well to the high-tech criminals and the corporations, and would give him a reason to be working for them or even lead them. He would make a really good leader for either side because he has great management and tactical skills. Okay, second on my list is Rhino. Now obviously we fought Rhino and put him back behind bars in the first game. However, a lot of people, including myself, would love to see Miles fight Rhino head on, in almost a poetic contrast to the stealth mission of the first game, where Miles had to hide for his life against Rhino. It would also be so interesting to see how Miles fights Rhino as opposed to Peter. Like, we could likely use a lot of different abilities such as Miles' camouflage to confuse Alexei and gain the advantage. In terms of characters and villains that we've seen already, I'm sure if Green Goblin or Venom were to make any appearance, it would probably be at the end of the game or in a post-credit scene to hype up Spider-Man 2 and hint towards them becoming the big bads of the next game. Although I'd be surprised if Oscorp isn't involved in this high-tech war at all, either secretly working with one side and gaining like all this tech to help Osborn become Green Goblin, or if Oscorp is trying to put an end to the gang war and elevate their status in the public eye. Now, last on my list is the most obvious, and that is Prowler. Now, Prowler is a very, very likely villain for this game. There have been many teasers towards his character, and obviously the link to Miles if they do choose the Aaron Davis version, which they probably would. That would be just such an emotional link, just like we saw in Into the Spider-Verse. Now obviously Aaron Davis is Miles' uncle, and we know Insomniac love to make the worlds of Spider-Man and the guy behind the mask collide, just like they did in the first game. That's what they were always saying before the game released, that is their main focal point. So I'm sure they would love to do the same with Miles, where his personal life and his superhero life are already colliding together. And what better way than to make a family member the big bad of the game. Now, Aaron Davis was actually mentioned in the first game in the news broadcast about Jeff's death in the Feast Shelter, so this confirms his character in the Spider-Man PS4 universe. Not only would Aaron's Prowler create a great narrative and set up a lot of tension between Miles and Aaron, but the Prowler outfit would look so sick with PS5 graphics and work so well in some cinematic shots, I'm sure. Also, although he's a very skilled hand-to-hand combatant due to his need to thieve and fight for survival growing up, Davis's efficiency as Prowler relies greatly on technology. Technology of which is integrated into his suit, which could tie in to the upsurge of high-tech corporations and criminals being introduced in this game. His gauntlets and boots are charged with energy to not only increase strength but also allow for gliding and boosting in the air and on the ground. Which is why this shot in the trailer is speculated to be Prowler. Now, Prowler's great ability to boost and glide in the air could result in some really cool chase sequences and even mid-air fights, reminiscent of the Beetle chase in Ultimate Spider-Man or the Shocker chase in the first game. But it could have a really emotional, intense dialogue as you're doing it, if Miles has already found out Prowler's true identity. So like how Peter was talking to Shocker in the first fight, Miles could be trying to talk his uncle out of this life of crime as he's chasing him. Overall, I have very high hopes of Prowler's inclusion in the game. And if Omega Red was also included, they could both be the main muscle or the leaders behind each opposing cooperation which the game revolves around, leading to some really cool boss fights. Anyway, that's all my ideas. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Please tell me which villains you would like to see in this game in the comment section below, and I'll catch you in the next one. I'm Mental Gamer, over and out.